Hello, I'd like to show you how we refurbished the cross slide on our Myford ML7 lathe and also changed it to metric while we were at it. I bought this lathe about 15 years ago and it's one of my most useful workshop machines. I knew it was old and I got it for a good price, but it's served me well over the years. The serial number implies it was made in 1953-54, so it's 3 years older than me. I'll have to pause for a minute and think about that. Recently, I've started seeing more backlash on the screws and also wear on the slides. It's obvious these are no longer square section threads, even without measuring them. That makes sense when you think about how it's most commonly used. The middle section here is where it's most often driven. If we screw this in, we'll see more clearly. You can see the wear on those threads here, and there's backward and forward movement on it here, and it's wobbly. Whereas when you drive it to the ends, much better, no play at all. So I'm going to replace that thread and this nut, because this nut comes with it. Well, the big decision is what to do with it, because realistically, if I'm going to replace that thread, I might as well replace it with a metric one, because although I'm old, I tend to do my engineering in metric, and it just makes sense. So I'm going to replace that with a metric one. Now, if I put this back in with the gib strip, the way it was originally adjusted, you'll see that it's nice in the middle. There's a tiny bit of rattle there which could be adjusted, but when you get it to here, it's really tight. I mean, that is effectively jammed now, and that's what was happening, because what would happen is you get it to the end of here, and then if you keep turning it, you finish up unscrewing the knob off the end of the thread. So let's have a look at this, and we'll have to re-lap this back into a nice shape so it fits. Okay, so I've undone the adjusters to get this off. The gib strip doesn't look too bad. If you look at these adjusters though, somebody's had a really good time with them, because that's got part of the head broke off. That's not too bad. This one here is really chewed up. That's not too bad. So there's 2 good adjusters out of 4, and there's supposed to be an adjuster in there. For some reason, the strip's got a hole in the middle of it. The adjusters fit into those dimples, but that hole is going to mean the screw goes through the strip. And jams into the dovetail, which is no good. I don't like it, and we'll have to think about whether it's any good. I bought a set of replacement cross slide adjusters from Myford. You can just buy 2BA grub screws and nuts, but they're not much cheaper actually. I was going to put a 2BA tap through there to clean out the threads, but I don't have a 2BA tap. That's how much I do anything in Imperial. I'll see if we can get this in. I think this has got a broken off adjuster in it. It does, so I'll have to get that out. The idea was to drill a hole in the adjuster to get a small extractor in it. But the adjuster's too hard, it's drifting and will break something. Okay, so I need to get a 2BA tap. In the meantime, we'll proceed without this adjuster. I was going to only replace the ones that needed it, but I've noticed that these Myford ones are just with an Allen key, not a slot. So I don't want a mix of screws in there, otherwise I'm going to be pulling my hair out and I don't have much. So I'm going to replace all those screws with these. I've never had a proper BA adjuster spanner for this lathe. I looked online, you can buy them, you can still buy Imperial tools obviously. They're about 10 quid for a decent one, but on eBay I found one of these, and it's what used to be a tractor spanner. Either. And it's sort of in keeping with the age of the lathe, so it'll go on my little rack behind me. Fine, a wonderful thing. So what we're going to do is to clean all the oil off this as much as we can, off here and here, with our workshop rag, and the same on this. Now that we've got as many of those adjusters back in as we can, we'll put the gib strut back in, and we'll fit this back on here. And that seems good. I use this grinding paste which has a coarse grit in one end and a fine grit in the other. You don't need much. I put a bit along the top edge so it works its way down. You can see where it's pulling the fine paste and leaving it. It's behaving almost like engineer's blade. But we're taking so little off, I'm going to put a bit of oil on it. Now it's just a matter of putting the work in. Stopping every now and again to clean up, check and repeat as necessary, until you get surfaces you're happy with. The dovetails look nice and evenly ground, but that gib strip is still patchy. But it's just so beautiful, is that? Oh, look at that. The tool slide is pretty good the way it is, but there's no point in doing one and not the other. This has always been broken. Can't buy these. I'm on the list for notify me when they're available, and it's the same with this gib strip. Notify me when it's available. So that and that, I need new ones, but at the moment they're all I have. There's no reason to waste your time showing you how to lap the tool slide, because it's just the same as the cross slide. But I've decided to buy a longer thread that's designed for the long slide for two reasons. One, because if ever I need a longer slide I can then put one on, because the replacement of these is about 65 quid, 70 quid. That's one reason. The other reason is I can't get a short one. Everybody's out of stock, they only have long ones. That means I'm going to have to drill a hole in the back of here so that the new thread can poke out the back. That means that I'm going to have to take this to pieces. Don't worry, I wouldn't hit this with a brand new thread. To do that, you need to undo all these machine screws. The front ones connect the plate to the front apron, and the others retain the front saddle strip underneath. You'll also need to undo or remove these adjusters because this slide also has a gib strip. The rear saddle is held on by 7/16 screws, and there's also this eccentric lock to remove. The saddle strips will have shims on them, and it's best to note where they go back. We'll transfer the position of the hole for the screw nut to the back face of the saddle. Putting the shank of a drill down the hole allows us to measure the distance to the edge better, which in turn helps us get the vertical centre. It doesn't look to be dead in the middle, because it's not supposed to be. Now we can drill a centre and a pilot hole, which looks dead centre to me. That drill bit can be put back in the chuck and used to line the piece back up in the drilling machine. Then we can swap the bit for a 10.5 or 11mm and bore the final size hole. The shadows make it look as if it's not in the middle, but it is. So now we can reassemble it. Here are my new screws from Myford, and I bought metric dials for them. I must admit, when I saw these were available in metric and they were nearly £30 each, I thought, £30 for something like that. Look at this. These are solid. That's a solid lump of metal. It's two shells held together by an internal circlip with a lovely engraved and marked scale. It's 2mm per turn, because they're a 2mm thread, and you know that is hefty. That you know, I didn't think they'd be as well made as that. They're absolutely beautiful. You couldn't make that for 30 quid. You know, you couldn't. And they're adjustable as well. This turns in there so that when you've got it in set to something, you can rotate the outer scale back to 0 and then cut, you know, a certain amount more. They're absolutely beautiful. Love those. Right, so the way this goes back together, and I was really hoping it would be compatible, and it is it's supposed to go hard washer here soft washer, which is fibre, then this, and then the handle screws on the end. Not many threads for it, is there? So let's screw this on. It's better than I thought. There's more turns than I thought, and the handle does fit. I'm pleased, really pleased to discover that that's compatible. Does that fit in? It does. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. 2 screws in here now. We're done with that. Look at that. I have put the tiniest chamfer on those because I believe that lets the oil get into them better. My next problem was going to be that I didn't think I had anything thin enough to hold this with while I tightened that knob on the end, but I found something that fits. I repeat this for the top slide. Those pieces are interchangeable. Look, it doesn't look like there's much wear on there, and we didn't feel much wear on there, but when you compare those threads to the metric ones, they're not so square, are they? Straight swap for this one, and I'm not going to go through all that with you. Except we have an issue. Okay, the problem is that the tolerance in here is so tight, so close, that you only have to touch this with your fingernail and you jam that in there. Look, it doesn't take anything to jam it. There's no play in there. The problem with this is that you're then relying on this in here. You're relying on this and this being dead concentric, and they're not, because there's a gib strip which is supposed to adjust this and take up for that. So once you start to do this with it, this is now out of line with that. And as much as you don't want play in things, there has to be some play somewhere, and it can't be here. I mean, slackening these off gives you play on those, and then it's fine. Look, it's fine when you do that, but you can't position this in such a way as you account for all the play, because it moves as this slides. What I've decided to do, being as how this is scrap anyway and I'm replacing it, is I've opened out this hole by 1/10 of a millimetre so that there's a little bit of play in there. There's the tiniest bit of play. Let's have another go. Well, that's much better. I'm happier with that as a you note that I'm holding the shaft with this, not the thread. Got some play, look, tighten this up till we've got no play. That's much better. Bubbles. With the handle all put back together properly, that's much better. Now, can I run this up to here and tighten these up so that that stays in the same place? It's a bit difficult to get to them. This is how you chew up heads of bolts, but I'm being careful. Right, is that okay? Yes, good. That feels really good. Now, of course, we can get to these now. Tighten them the rest of the way up. Beautiful. So our problem was alignment between this and that, which was so tight that if they weren't perfectly concentric, it didn't run. That's beautiful. Look at that. And this is now rock solid. Rock solid. It doesn't give, there's no play in that at all. I will adjust these. I'll adjust these. I'll put the washers, the nuts back on with my little Terry's tractor spanner for adjusting points. And we'll see how it goes. Thank you for joining me on my little adventure to fix that bit of the lathe. I'll be putting together another video as soon as I get some more parts to fix the other little bits on it. So I'll see you then.